Marhaba, my name is Megan and welcome to Wanderlust Voyages. We are here to share all about Morocco with you, from the culture to the cities to the cuisine. If you would like to know more about Morocco, please be sure to like this channel and subscribe for more videos. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of the big things we get questions about from travelers is shopping. So a lot of our travelers actually really want to do a lot of shopping in Morocco. They will even bring an extra empty suitcase to allow them to do so. And that is because Morocco has so many incredible handmade items that people want to bring home and gift to people and have these incredible souvenirs from their trip. What I would like to talk to you today about is the best places to do that shopping. Where's the best place to buy a Berber rug? Where's the best place to buy pottery? Where's the best place to buy Moroccan leather? So there are, of course, many places where you can buy everything all over Morocco. You'll find a lot of the same things in many different cities. However, there are certain items that are going to be best to purchase in certain cities, and that's going to be because that's where they're made, or that's where you can find them the cheapest or the highest quality, or maybe just it's where you're not going to face as much overcharging as other locations. So if anyone who has been to Morocco or a place like that, you will know that unless you are in a grocery store, there's no set prices. You are supposed to bargain. You ask them how much, they give you a price, you say, no, this much, and you give them a very low number. They'll say, couldn't possibly, not even, and they'll give you a higher number, and you go back and forth. And typically, if you're interested in more than one thing, you'll ask them, how much is this? How much is this? They'll say, no, it's this much for both. So they will not give you a per item price. So, and you'll say, okay, well, I don't want this one. Just how much is this? And they'll say, well, no. Let me give you a price for both. They don't want to individually price things. So find whatever you like. And the more things you're buying, the better of a deal you're going to get from them. So when you're shopping, your goal is to get to a price that is around a third to half of what they originally quoted you. Using the walk away technique often works. If you are truly asking for something too low, then they'll let you go. But if it is something that is acceptable, they'll say, okay, come back. And it's funny, one time I was wanting to buy some little pearls. It was like a little string of pearls for like beads for jewelry making. And he was like, oh no, I'm losing money. But he sold it to me for the price I was asking. So he was not losing money. They are not going to lose money. They will use that as a line. They will try to make you feel bad for bargaining. It's all part of the game. So with that said, let's talk about where you're going to find the best bargain and highest quality of different items. One of the most popular is, of course, rugs. A lot of people want to buy a Moroccan rug, and there are going to be some differences in design, whether it is something that is made in Fez or down in the Sahara region or in Marrakech. There are certain regional differences. However, you are going to find a lot of the same designs offered in shops in Fez, in Marrakech, in the Sahara. And so one of the things to think about is where you're going to find the best deal on that. For the most part, that's actually going to be down in the Sahara region, in Merzouga, Boumelin, even as far as Ouarzazate. because that is where they're being made. And the fewer dealers it's going through, the fewer markups there's going to be. So these rugs are all handmade. They may be woven, they may be knotted, and they're absolutely beautiful. One of the things is that there's not necessarily set rates for rugs, because there's a lot of factors that go into it that are not apparent to us as consumers. Who made it, how long it took them, the supplies, the complexity. Something that may seem very simple to us might actually be very complex, or something that looks very complex, there's actually a very simple way to do it. So ultimately with rugs, it's going to depend on what do you agree is a fair price. So down in the Sahara, Merzouga in particular, you are typically going to find a lower price on the rugs. Part of that, as I said, because it is going through fewer dealers before it gets to you, the final purchaser. The other part is simply the number of buyers that come through, and kind of what the standard is for the region. Overall, there's a lot of things that are less expensive down in the Sahara. And in Fez, it's such a popular city. There's thousands and thousands of tourists going through there, and they only go through there. You know, maybe they're not going to make the long trek down to the Sahara, and so they're going to have fewer options, or maybe that's the first place they're going, so they don't really have any idea, and they're like, okay, sure, I'll pay this price. But it's going to be more expensive. So if you are going through the south, absolutely wait and buy your rugs down there. Of course, if you're not going to the south, not everybody does. It is a long drive down there. By all means, do your rug shopping in Fez and Marrakech. Another very common thing that people want to buy in Morocco is leather. Moroccan leather has been famous for centuries. It has been sought after for as long as Morocco has traded with other countries. And you are going to find the best options, lower prices, and more selection in Fez. The Fez tanneries are very, very old. The dye pits that they use have been in use for nearly 1,000 years, and they're still processing the leathers by hand in the same way. Now, there's 3 main shops that surround these dye pits, and they're all pretty much the same. Now, this is going to be an important point. When you are shopping, if you are a foreigner, first of all, you're never going to get the same price on leather or on anything else as a local. Simply by the fact that you are traveling there, that means you have more money than a lot of them, and you're going to pay a higher price. So don't worry about getting the same price as a local. That's simply not going to happen. However, that doesn't mean that you want to fall victim to them overcharging. Now, there's this conception that you don't ever want to go shopping with a guide, because then you're going to get overcharged. That is true some of the time. It depends on who your guide is. There are some that specifically will take you someplace and convince you that it's going to be a really good deal and you should buy this, but it's actually a lot more expensive. Especially be wary of any guide, especially offered. One thing like Riyadhs will usually do this is they'll say, oh, we'll get you a guide, it'll be free. Well, you're not paying for the guide directly, you're paying for it indirectly through your shopping. So always be wary of that. However, our guides, we have one primary guide, but if we happen to have 2 groups on the same day, we do have backups. But they all are, they are paid more because they are not They are there to show you the history and to help you not take advantage of you. Our guides in Fez will assist you to an extent. You know, they're not going to do the bargaining for you, but if they hear, you know, you're being charged something that is way too high, he will step in and say, no, absolutely not. There was once we were in the Fez Medina with a group, and there had been another group in the same shop, and the salesman thought that one of the ladies was with this other group, and he was helping her, and he was like, okay, yeah, you know, this beautiful leather jacket, and he gave her a price. And so she was okay with it. She's like, okay, great. And then it came time to when she was kind of finishing up, and the guy realized that, oh, she's not with that group, she's with this group, she was with our group. And when he saw that, you know, her talking to our guide, then suddenly he disappeared. And when she went to be rung up, oh, the price of the jacket dropped by $100. So that is a very telling example of how the guide you're with matters when you are shopping. You know, I don't want to say that it doesn't happen, because it absolutely does. But if you have a good, trustworthy guide who is being paid fairly, then you are going to have him be able to assist you and help guide you on, ooh, that's way too much, or no, that's a reasonable price. So leather in Fez is going to also be many different kinds. They make leather out of the skins of all kinds of animals. You can get sheep leather, goat leather, cow leather, or camel leather. And they have some different properties. Camel leather is very, very lightweight, and it is pretty durable too. Cow leather is very heavy. So a lot of the jackets or bags are going to be made out of camel leather or sheep leather, because the cow is just too heavy. But if you are looking at like the poofs, or very more of like a travel bag instead of just a carry day bag, then you're also going to find those made of the cow leather. So they process all of them there. You will be able to talk to them about, you know, what's the type of leather, which one's going to be best for what I'm looking for, and they have so many different colors. They dye them, you know, bright yellows with saffron. They dye them deep blues or reds. And with the jackets, because they are all locally made, it's not like they're, you know, shipping them off to Casablanca and getting them all mass produced. They can all be modified. So if you are staying in Fez for a day or two, then you can have something custom tailored to you as well, which is fantastic. Of course, not everybody goes to Fez. Marrakech also has a tannery there as well, so that would be, I would say, the second place to shop for leather. You'll notice as I go on, Marrakech has everything. That's one of the reasons we structure our tours the direction that we do, so that you end up in Marrakech. So if there's something you didn't find along the way, you can find everything in Marrakech. But shopping in Marrakech can be a little bit more trying than it is in other places. They are a bit more aggressive in Marrakech. Prices are likely going to be a little bit higher in Marrakech, depending on where you are. But because there's so many more options, your chances of choosing a place that is going to overcharge you, you have a little bit better odds. So definitely, if you are looking for something that you don't find anywhere else, absolutely, you'll get it there. So what else do people want to buy? Spices. Spices are a huge thing that people want to get from Morocco. And depending on what specific type you are looking for. So we personally buy all of our spices down in Rissani. The Rissani market is much more geared towards locals, and we are familiar with what spices we're trying to get, and so we can get a kilo of cinnamon for far less than we're going to get it in a nice neat package somewhere else. However, you're going to get it in just a plastic bag. There's no information on it. You see the mountains of spices, they just grab a bag and they scoop it in, and that's what you get. So if you are wanting large quantities of spices, absolutely that's where you want to do it. This smells so good. So cinnamon is one big thing because it is a little bit different there. It's a little bit more of a savory cinnamon as opposed to a sweet cinnamon. Cumin is also different there, as is pepper. And of course, if you want something like ras al hanout or the harissa powder, absolutely get that in Morocco as well. If, however, you don't want large quantities and you want it to be a little bit better packaged with, maybe a tag that tells you what it is. Quick aside. So two of the spices that we routinely buy from Morocco is we get paprika and we get harissa powder. Well, they're both kind of reddish, and there was a time that, I asked Bill, I'm like, okay, which is which? And he thought this was the spicy one, this was the paprika. Well, he had them switched. And for a while I was wondering, like, why are you making the food so spicy? It's because he thought it was paprika and he was adding more harissa powder. And so sometimes having things labeled is a very good idea. So if you want to have smaller quantities, nicely packaged, nicely labeled, one other quick anecdote about the perils of these bags. So the trip before last, I had a large bag of paprika and it broke in my bag. I don't know if I should blame the US Customs, because I did have a little, slip in there that says they had to open up my bag and look through it, or if they just opened up and saw that and they're like, forget it, I'm done. But my shoes are now stained a little bit red. The inside lining of my suitcase is stained red. So if you do go for the large bulk quantities, try to get a container to hold it a little bit more securely. That's why sometimes you want the nice, neat packages, and that you're going to find in Marrakech. Marrakech, they have the Berber apothecaries, where they will talk to you about, it's like a little mini lesson about what different spices they use for different ailments. There's a lot of people, especially in the rural communities down in the south, in the mountains, where they don't go to doctors. If you have an upset stomach, you drink a tea made with this. If you have a cold, you use some flu. Different ailments are treated with different herbs and spices because a lot of them do have medicinal qualities. So that's one of the things that they will talk to you about, like, oh, this, and this are used to treat these things. And then, of course, they do have all of the regular spices as well as a few different spice blends. Spice blends are amazing. I have mentioned multiple times that I cannot make a tagine to save my life. And so that falls to Bill. He has these spice blends that he will make for my family, because he'll say, like, oh, you use this much of this and this much of this. And, he'll start to do that and then he'll keep adjusting it. So having a pre-made spice blend is wonderful. Other types of spices, you may, well, one thing in particular that you do want to buy elsewhere, saffron. So saffron in Morocco is grown in like around Talouin. That's where you're going to find the saffron co-op. It's all the way from like Urica down to Talouin where they grow it. So it's a wonderful place to find it. Around Tadoudant, even over like Essaouira is where you're going to get the saffron that comes straight from the co-op that you can be guaranteed is legitimate. A lot of people in Morocco will use a fake saffron because it is rather expensive. However, it is a lot cheaper there than buying it here. We got little jars that are I don't even know how much it would be, but you know, if you ever buy like a little jar of saffron, you know the size I'm talking about. And we bought it for 50 dirhams, and so we ended up buying 8 of them. And it was something that, you know, we were meeting a friend. We were in Taroudant, and he got there right after we'd bought them, and he's like, let me see, because sometimes, you know, people sell kind of fake saffron. And so he opened one of them up and sniffed it, took a look, and he's like, okay, yes, this is the real stuff. So do be aware of that. Other edible things that you may want to buy in Morocco: dates. So of course you're not supposed to bring dates back. They are considered produce, which is a no-no. However, if you want to enjoy them while you are there, there are so many varieties, and the best place to get them is down in Rissani. All throughout there, from there to Ouarzazate is where they grow them. However, the Rissani market is where we traditionally get them. And so October is when the date harvesting season is. So October, November, December, you're going to find so many options. And if you are going to some place like in the Rissani market, they will have, you can sample the different ones, and they'll actually put together a little sampler box for you. They also make date syrup out of that, and even date coffee. So we have some. We don't really drink it very often because it's decaf, but it tastes kind of like caramel. It's delicious. So absolutely, that's another place to buy dates. You want to do that in the south, specifically around Rissani. You know, we've had times where we're going through there, and you know, we're going to head up to Fez, and so a friend will say, hey, bring me some dates. So definitely those are going to be where you get the best ones. Something else would be argan oil. Now, argan oil, a lot of people know it as just for cosmetics, but if you get it, you can also get it for culinary purposes. Hold on, let me go get that, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, this is the argan oil for culinary purposes. You can see it is more of an amber color instead of a golden like the cosmetic. And the difference is that they roast the argan nuts before they process them. If you don't roast it and just process them raw, you get the cosmetic. If you roast them and process them, you get this wonderful nutty flavored oil. So it is wonderful to just dip bread in. That's mostly what we do with it. You can also drizzle it on salads, and I also use it to make amlou. So amlou is what they call, you'll hear it referred to as Moroccan peanut butter, but it doesn't have peanuts in it. Instead, it is more like Moroccan almond butter. They grind almonds and they add honey and the amlu, the argan oil, and it's this wonderful, nutty, rich, sweet spread that, again, you dip bread in or spread on bread. I've actually even like mixed it into ice cream. It is so, so good. So because, you know, you can absolutely buy amlu there, but that's one more thing to add weight to your suitcase. So if you are good in the kitchen, then you can just get the argan oil and make it yourself. So where to get argan oil? That's going to be kind of outside of Marrakech. The co-ops are just outside of Tardant, and the trees they grow starting somewhere between Marrakech and Essaouira, down through Agadir and in a bit. So that's going to be the region where you're going to want to get your argan oil for both purposes. And there's going to be specific shops for it where like that's all they have, so argan oil products. You also get to, you know, see how it's processed and taste the amlu and the argan oil and argan honey, which of course is made from the bees that collect pollen from the argan trees. And of course, like everything in Morocco, there are places where something is actually not real. And so you do need to be a little bit careful, and you want to make sure you're buying it from a reputable location. And that is, again, where trusting your driver is going to be important. So again, buying is totally up to you, but if you are wanting to do that, absolutely get it on your way between Ouarzazate to Marrakech, or between Marrakech to Essaouira or Agadir, or if you're going to Tardant, definitely get it there. And also definitely try the argan honey. It is absolutely delicious. So what else do people want to buy? Wood carving, though, so things that have been carved out of wood. They do that a lot in Essaouira and also Marrakech. You'll find a lot of woodworking shops there where you can watch them, you know, carving these intricate boxes and chess sets and, you know, inlaid pieces. And so that is a wonderful, wonderful place, both of those cities, to purchase handmade wooden objects. And you're going to find more variety in Marrakech, of course. And actually, one of our travelers one time, he had a very specific request. He wanted a camel, a carved wooden camel that was about 2.5, maybe 3 feet tall. And again, this is where having a good guide comes in handy. Our guide, you know, I think it was all of maybe 30 seconds that he thought about. He's like, I know exactly where to take you. He took him there, found exactly what he was looking for, good price, he was happy. So definitely, if you have a specific thing you're looking for, ask your guide, because there are so many shops, little souks in the Medina, that you're not going to discover them all. And you may, you know, think like, oh, this is good enough, just because you didn't go one more street over and find the perfect one, or, you know, you do try to explore everything, but now you can't remember which one you saw the best one at. So always, you know, rely on your guides. They're experts. We provide them for a reason. Other things that are really great to buy in Marrakech are the lamps. So you'll see some places in Morocco these beautiful metal lamps, either hanging from the ceiling or decorative ones sitting on tables, where it's got this kind of scroll work carved out of it, and so it sends out this shadowed pattern of light. Marrakech is going to be the best place to purchase those. Something else that you'd want to get in the Sahara would be the woven items. So these were some small things I was able to grab. These are made from the grasses down there, very common. Trivets, bread bowls. They have little ones that have like a little tagine cover on them. Wonderful place to get those as well. Other things that you want to get in Fez, pottery. Now you will see pottery all over Morocco. It is on, all kinds of like roadside stands. It's going to be in every Medina. However, the Fez pottery is special. It is made of a different white clay, whereas what's made in the rest of Morocco is red. And this different clay has a few different properties that makes it a better idea. It has, one, it is lighter. If you've ever carried pottery, you know how heavy it can be. Of course, if you're buying a lot of things, you can have it shipped anyway. But if you are just wanting to pick up, maybe a cup, maybe a little mini tagine or something like that, the pottery co-ops in Fez is where I would recommend to get that. Not only do you know that it is all handmade, because part of the visit to the co-op is, you see how they hand make it. They're sitting there, spinning the plates, or, painting the mugs or whatever. But having them lightweight is very nice, not only for getting it back, but also for use. Nobody wants a really heavy mug. Also, they are a little bit more durable. It doesn't chip as easily. And it's also microwave safe. So you really shouldn't put a lot of the other ones in the microwave, say to like heat up a cup of coffee, because you don't really know what sort of paint was used on it, if it's going to be safe for the pottery itself. But the stuff in Fez absolutely is. In Fez, you also, if you want to get embroidery, so this is a very common style of embroidery that you will see a lot in the riads. A lot of the table linens, sometimes even bed linens, will have this beautiful hand embroidery, and that's really just something that you're going to find in Fez. In terms of scarves, everybody wants a scarf in Morocco. There are a few different kinds. If you want one that's handmade, definitely get that from Fez. They have the silk weavers there, where they make silk thread out of the fibers in the agave plant, and they weave that into these beautiful scarves. And they're very reasonably priced too. Last time I was there, it was 100 dirhams for a scarf, which is, a little over $10 for this beautiful scarf that you'd expect to pay that for like a regular one that's, mass produced, and this is handmade, like start to finish handmade. So absolutely get one there. If you want more of the type to, the longer, lighter weight ones that they wear down the Sahara, then of course you're going to want to get those down there. They're very popular, usually very bright color, and the ends are dip dyed in black or gray, and those are very good. If you absolutely pick up one of those, if you are going to do a camel trek, and ask your camel guide to wrap it for you, because if there's any wind, you want to be able to pull that up over your face so you don't end up with a mouthful of sand. But also, if you just want the very pretty ones, they're not made in Morocco. They are made in China usually, or maybe India. But I have found the best ones in the Risani market. I have, I'm sorry to say, about a couple dozen of these scarves. And so there's different qualities. The very thick ones are not as good of quality. They pill really easily, and they're not as comfortable. But the thinner ones are higher quality. Absolutely get those in Risani. That's where I have found them, large selections, and definitely get those there. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the clothing. Some people would like to get a djellaba or a tuxedo, which is the very beautiful, highly decorated fancy dresses. You will see them, on display in these little shops as you're walking through the Medinas. But one thing to keep in mind, a lot of them, they don't have any place to try it on. And while it is, they are very forgiving styles, you don't want to be trying to guess about it and see, what's going to work and what's not. What I would suggest for that would be Meknes. Now, Meknes is the place where not a lot of people travel. And as such, you're not going to get overcharged the way you are in Fez and Marrakech, because they're not used to jacking up the prices for travelers. Like I get most of my tuxedos custom made because I'm there so often, and I can do that. I have the time. And I was going to fabric shops because I love the fabric shops there. Fabric is so much more affordable than it is here in the States. And I saw this one fabric I absolutely fell in love with, and told me the price. I'm like, okay, that's kind of expensive. And Bill thought that, okay, now we're being overcharged. So later we sent his mother and one of our nieces there. So, his mother is a very, I would say, she drives a hard bargain. You're not going to take advantage of her. And, I think she got a price that was maybe 50 dirhams less. Like, we really were not being overcharged. It was just so intricately designed and hand sewn beads and everything like that. So Meknes is going to be a place where you're not going to be way overcharged. If you are, it's a very small percentage. They're not doubling or tripling or quadrupling the price on you. So in Morocco, like I said, you can get them handmade if you have the time, but a lot of travelers don't. So Meknes is where you can find shops that have many different styles and sizes and variety. And there's one that we just discovered where they also have a place where you can try it on. So let me show you the one I had gotten from there. So you can see it has all of this, sewn on. It's on the back as well. It is all the way down the front. It is very long. It is a lot of fabric. And I know from the amount of the fabric shopping I've done there, what we paid for this, that would have been the cost of the fabric, let alone this trim, which when you're getting custom made, the tailor will also order custom trim to decorate it. And it is, such a beautiful, beautiful dress. So if you would like that, absolutely, if you have time to go to Meknes, that is where you should go to get these beautiful tuxedos. And they also have, of course, the more standard djellabas or kaftans. So I think that covers most everything that people are really looking for when they are shopping. Oh, jewelry. That's one thing I forgot. Silver jewelry, you'll want to get in a Souks. So Marrakech, of course, has a lot of it. Marrakech has everything, but Souks is kind of the best place to get silver jewelry. A lot of it is handmade. And again, whenever you're buying jewelry, do be careful. Ask for recommendations of reputable shops, because there's a lot of people who will swear these stones are genuine, swear it is pure silver or gold or whatever, and then you find out no, it's not. So always be careful, ask for recommendations. All right, now I think that is it. If you have any other questions of where to buy something, please let me know in the comments, and hopefully that will help you if you are going to Morocco and would like to do some shopping. So come join us next time, and we will, I think the next few videos might be Moroccan cooking. We are coming up on Ramadan, and because there are a lot of things to make, I'm going to start making some of the things that freeze really well, like the shebeki and the briwat, and a little bit later the mismin. And so be on the lookout for those videos. So thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day. Hopefully we will see you in Morocco soon.